Welcome back. Junkies on 106.7 The Fan. If you missed it, we gave you a Cakes in Aruba poker update. Our man Money Metal Cakes actually cashed in the $200,000 tournament. He survived all of Saturday. And then yesterday, some ups and downs. You can check out some of the updates on the Junkies Facebook page. But he cashed for $4,300.
Good
Not
score.
a bad score.
Paid vacation, and you get paid on top of it.
Yep. All right, join us right now to talk college football. Analyst for college football today. CBS's pregame and halftime studio show. It's Spencer Tillman. Hey, Spencer.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
How are you, sir? Hey, want to start off with the controversy there in the Florida State Notre Dame game on Saturday night. I'm sure you've talked about it. I'm sure you've done some interviews about it. Brian Kelly's coming out now and saying, "Hey, Florida State blew the coverage. They actually initiated the contact. Should not have been a penalty. We ran the play earlier in the game, scored on it." Your take on that whole deal?
Well, listen, I think it was the correct call. Just be perfectly clear about that. I think what you have to do is a bit of a sales job. You know, people are playing bunch coverages, and sometimes people come out with a little triad or even a 4, with the diamond package. The deal is it's designed to create those rub impact and effects. And from a defensive standpoint, particularly in a critical situation like a red zone and a last-second play, an opportunity to win a game, you got to know that that's a possibility for that to be called. And you never put that in the hands of the defense to make that mistake. In other words, that receiver has to sell that route that he's attempting to run and not just lean on a guy. So that's the problem I had with it. So I think they made the right call.
Okay, so
who were you most impressed by, though, in that game? Because it's a Florida State home game. Were you more impressed by what Florida State did to survive and hold on, or Notre Dame to actually be in a position to win?
As a team, I was more impressed with what Brian Kelly did as a coach. I was more impressed with Notre Dame, how they responded. You go back to 2012, the way they played in the championship game after leading the nation in defense and scoring defense, and Manti Te'o, Lewis Nix, all those guys who were up front. They were a dominating team until they ran into Alabama. They got exposed in that championship game. To me, they were a very much improved team who still is in this mix here with just that one loss. And they got a very favorable schedule. They can run this thing out and be very much in this first year that we have this new playoff format, a factor in the mix. So I was impressed with Coach Kelly, impressed with them overall, but I'd have to say, in maybe a third position, if you made me declare, I would have to say that Jameis Winston, to me, despite the fact that I'm repulsed by all the stuff that's going on off the field, that kid is just totally deaf and with respect to his precision and his command of what they're asking him to do offensively. He reminds me of a Cam Newton in terms of how Cam kind of ushered his way through his troubles en route to the big award as well. So it was just a total impressive job by the young quarterback.
All right, let's talk about the playoff here. That's all anybody really cares about at this point. As we enter, what do we need? Week 8, I think, college football. All right, I think we can agree that if Florida State runs the table, which they probably will, I don't see them losing to Louisville or Florida or even to Duke in the conference championship. Let's assume they're there. They're going to be in the Final Four. All right, SEC champion will be there as well. All right, so that's 2 spots. So the other Power 5 conferences are battling for 2 spots. Here's my question. Would Spencer Tillman take Oregon if Oregon runs the table and wins the Pac-12, or would he take one of the Mississippi schools if one of those Mississippi schools don't lose until the SEC championship? All right, let's just say Ole Miss runs the table, beats everybody, beats Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, loses to Georgia. Is Spencer Tillman taking that one-loss runner-up SEC school, or is he taking the Pac-12 champion if it's Oregon?
That's a great question. I'm not hedging here, but the question is how Oregon runs the table. How dominant are they when they do it? Because the one thing that we really can't tell and see here is how dominant these teams will do this hypothetical scenario you just painted. Yeah. That's great, but how dominant are they? That's, to me, strength of schedule is going to be important, all that, but I need teams to be dominant. We used to think that in the old system of BCS, you were instantly in this kind of, what do you call it? It's a parade, basically. It's a beauty contest. You got to have style points and all of that. To me, that's as important as it ever has been. but you have to be dominant. I mean, I think that's what the Big Ten champion would have to be, even the Pac-12 champion. So it depends on how dominant they are. And I really can't answer that question. I wouldn't be so, wouldn't have a knee-jerk reaction and sound like a shill for the SEC and say, oh, I'd take a 2-loss SEC team in a heartbeat. No, I want to see how dominant Oregon does what they do down the stretch. And I do believe, I'm a believer in defense. I believe defense wins championship. It doesn't matter if you're talking pros or college. I think in the last, 47, 48 Super Bowls, only 4 times in the history of the Super Bowl has the lower-rated defensive team won. And all that means is you can have a good offense and win a Super Bowl, but you can't have a bad defense and expect to win a Super Bowl. It just doesn't happen. So you've got to have defense. And so whoever that team is, they're going to have to play extremely good defense, and I would hope that Oregon does that. Then I could give you an answer. But I want to see how dominant that team is going to be.
Joined by Spencer Tillman, lead studio analyst for College Football Today, CBS's pregame and halftime studio show. I want to bring it back to Jameis Winston if we can.
Yep.
About his play on the field. You talked about him being deft and being able to kind of compartmentalize and doing his business on the field. And you mentioned Cam Newton. But what he does on the field, and this may be a stretch, you could talk about it, reminds me a little bit of Peyton Manning in terms of command of offense. That guy at a young age goes to the line and makes checks and seems to be completely aware. Like, I don't know if he's smart in the classroom, but he's a smart college football player.
Yeah, and let's make that perfectly clear. Again, when you talk about familiarity, you can have great football chops and be smart and all that stuff. I was watching the Texans games last night. I happen to know DJ Swearinger is a smart football guy. Now, he may not be confused with Nostradamus on any other issues, but in terms of understanding how the field is distributed and where you need to be leverage-wise, I see him getting guys in position, even as a young player, guys that have been in the league 5 and 6 years longer than he has. He understands distribution of the field. But Jameis Winston, you can see it in his eyes. And again, I'm not sitting here celebrating this kid. What I'm saying, it may be an aloofness, it may be just a naivete, but that one area that he's mastered is command of what they're asking him to do. I mean, there is no hesitation, no hedging whatsoever. He knows not just what he's supposed to do, but what everybody else is supposed to do in that offensive scheme as well. So that's the confidence there, and I don't want to be confused with me celebrating a kid who has been involved in so much trouble off the field. I'm embarrassed by all of that for the program.
Right, but at the end of the day, we all know that NFL teams are going to take a chance on this kid because there's just too much talent there. If you were a general manager, where do you fall on this? Because you've got the off-the-field issues, clearly at the minimum a knucklehead, an immature factor there. But you wonder, will he ever be able to get on top of that and kind of grow and mature? Or is he always going to be this kind of guy? Can you give him $20 million? $15 million of a guarantee.
You ask great questions. You guys are you're asking fantastic questions because here's the reason why that's a great question. It's just like the previous question about, Notre Dame and all that. The bottom line is, if there's enough time, and you're right, the NFL will do what's in their best interest, and the teams will as well. If there's enough time in between his last transgression, 6 months, let's say, and it seems like he's been clean, then somebody will say, give him a mulligan and make that decision. But if it's problematic, then it's untenable. You cannot defend that. So I can see teams passing on him. But if that's not the case and he's been clean for 6 months, maybe a year even, then they'll forget all those crab legs. They'll forget even the most arduous things that he's done. I mean, and then the difficult and the, impulsive and instinctive things that he did, standing on the table and uttering the expletives and so forth. They'll forget all of that, and they'll give him a mulligan. So it's about the element of recency. What you do last, people tend to remember most, and when it happens matters, I think, as much as anything.
So true. So true.
Spencer, I want to ask you about the committee, the selection committee. With I guess we learned yesterday that Archie Manning is going to bow out because he's having some medical problems with his knee. All right, so now there's 12 members. I don't think they're going to add a member. They're going to stick with 12. The way that the committee is set up, I think they can spread the wealth a little bit because you have guys representing the Pac-10. You've got the AD at Clemson representing the ACC. You've got Tom Osborne. You've got Alvarez. There's some good football minds there.
Well, it's going to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, my question was, how does Manning being dropping out? How does that affect the committee and the selection process, in your opinion?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction to that is, and I've thought about it, but I would immediately say you lose some perceived and real credibility there. But on the other hand, you alleviate the maybe the tendency to feel like he's a shill for Ole Miss or some of the Mississippi schools that are ironically rising at the same time. I think in this first year, you have got to be in a tenable position to defend your choices. Because I'm telling you, man, this is an upside-down year. Whenever we've been at this point where you've got Gary Patterson and Bill Snyder meeting in a showdown to determine the Big 12 champion. I mean, that crap that just doesn't happen. And again, no disrespect to Bill Snyder. He's an unbelievable coach, and it's never should be considered an upset when you are defeated by them. Oklahoma just got their butts handed to them.
Yep.
But, everything has just been turned on its ear this year. I mean, that's the point. I mean, at this point last year, we had, 10 undefeated teams. Now they're 3. I mean,
well,
that's
four if you had Marshall.
Oh, they're 4. Well, yeah, Marshall. But I mean, and that's another point to be made. At least we had a legitimate fly in the ointment last year. The rules lottery was available for that team to get on the outside, but not this year.
Yeah.
So in many ways, this system has moved it backwards in time. So we got the South rising again. We got all this other stuff happening. I mean, this is crazy, man.
It's going to be interesting. It really is. So much football to be played.
Spencer, real quick, some speculation here. Who do you think is going to ultimately take over at Florida as the head coach? Because Muschamp has been, mediocre with Florida, and that's not acceptable there in the SEC.
Yeah. Real quick, I would go for Dan Mullen first. Okay, particularly if he continues and wins another Heisman Trophy with Dak Prescott. He will have done the same thing with Tim Tebow because he recruited him as well. And then I would go with Jeremy Pruitt, who's now obviously, calling the shots at Georgia, but he was at Florida State before. So I think that would be 2 good shots.
Interesting. All right, Spencer. All right, there's so much great college football to be played here in the next few weeks. We're going to talk to you again soon, hopefully.
Look forward to it, guys.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, take care.
Yeah, you too,
Bye-bye.
man. What a class guy.
He had unbelievable. Whenever we have him on, and we've talked about this probably every time we have him on, I go to his Wikipedia page, and I'm just blown away by his college career, where he won a national championship. He won a Super Bowl with the 49ers, even though he didn't have a particularly impressive career as a pro. He was a captain of that team with Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana.
Yep. No, he's a great college
analyst. How many
analyst.
years did he have in the league? 7-8 years at least?
Probably.
It looks like from 87 through 94. Yeah.
That's a hell of a career.
Yep. And he's really good at what he does now.
Every time we have him on, I'm blown away at just his class. Some guys, you just ooze class. He's one of those guys, like James Brown. Yep. I get sidetracked.
Smart, articulate, very good at what he does.
I like him a lot. Big fan. I do. I just get charged up.
Did he jocked your question?
No. No, I really, really liked him. I didn't even really get my question out. He just started jumping at it.
Tark El-Bashir is going to join us from Comcast Sportsnet at 9:20 to talk some Redskins. He covers the Redskins. When we come back, we had a big debate in the 6 o'clock hour of the show about RG3. And we'll play some of Jay Gruden's clips from yesterday's press conference. But essentially, he has left the door wide open for RG3 to return on Monday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys, who are 6-1. Do you think he's making a mistake? 800-636-1067. We'll talk about that next on The Fan.